Welcome to the My Way podcast with Andrew Jones. This is where entrepreneurs share their way of running a business. We'll discuss what habits and strategy are required to scale a successful business. Katie, welcome to the My Way podcast. Thanks for taking the time to come on. I'd just like to start with, could you give the listeners a bit of a better understanding as to what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Katie from Otium Concierge. We provide lifestyle concierge services to kind of individuals and businesses across the world. So that's everything from your practical concierge requests like booking tradespeople, researching utility companies, right through to private jet charters and hospitality events and things like that.
Okay, amazing. I was looking through your background. Obviously, I know you from previous, in terms of both work for Barclays, met you on the NatWest Accelerator. What was it that you learned from corporate? And then the second part of it is, why did entrepreneurship appeal to you?
Yeah, okay. So what I learned from corporate was my basic soft skills, I'd say. So things like I worked in customer service for about 7 years. And being in kind of a call centre environment really teaches you a level of how to deal with people. It's a hard job and it's an intense job and it's a soul-destroying job in some ways. But I learned so much to deal with kind of people from all different walks of life with different expectations. And I'd say, you know, complaint handling and things like that, how to rectify bad situations has given me skills to deal with anything that life, like things throws at me in business as it is, like anything from when you're starting the business through the pain points of that, your first client and retention, right through to when a client's not happy and things haven't gone to plan, because naturally that can happen. So having to deal with those things in business, I think Barclays kind of in a corporate call centre gave me so much kind of foundation to that and how to deal with people. And then kind of starting the business and going from the corporate secure bank life right through to starting with no income. I worked for a private bank at the end called Duncan Lorry, and basically the decision was made for me because the bank closed down. So It was quite rare for a bank to be wound up. So being within that process was really interesting as well. But I was made redundant on the 23rd of December in 2017. So I had a situation then where I had to make a decision. I got offered 2 bank jobs and just something inside me told me, you've got about 3-4 months of salary here. Yeah. Go for it. You've got nothing to lose. You can find another bank job if it goes tits up. But, you know, it didn't. And we're here 7 years later.
Brilliant. What is it that you enjoy about entrepreneurship?
It's hard, isn't it? There's so many pros, but there's so many cons, if I'm really honest as well, especially being a mum with the cons. I think the flexibility, the ability to make decisions instantly and not having this hierarchy of people to kind of second guess everything and being in control. So, for example, in COVID, it's not the best time to own a concierge company, but quite quickly we offered kind of business PA services and we grew in that time by doing that. If I was working for a company, I could have all these ideas, but who's going to listen to me? So I think that, and kind of wanting to make a difference and be a successful person in my own right, not behind a big eagle of Barclays or something like that, you know. My dad owned his own business, so I kind of always had that in my household, and my auntie was extremely successful. She owned a chain of care homes across South Wales, so I had a lot of people around me that made me want to kind of dip my toe a little bit in the water, I guess.
For the listeners that might not have had that in their family and entrepreneurs close to them, what sort of things did you learn from them?
I think just the kind of having balls and getting on with it, making those decisions and not dwelling on things. I think I've learned so much about, people talk about failure and, you know, like you can feel so pressured, and like I always think to myself now when things are going wrong or if I've made the wrong decision, okay, look back to when you're worried about something else. Do you think about it now? You don't. You don't think about it even 2 weeks later. You just get on with it because life still continues. So I think the fact that I had a bit of redundancy and I could see what other people were doing. But I would say if I didn't have that in my family, I'd say your business, your network of people around you. Everyone knows someone who does something for themselves, even if you don't know them that way. People find it a compliment for someone to reach out and be a bit like, well, what do you do and how does it work? So reach out and discover a bit more, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think your network of people around you, people that you can just pick their brains, ask for advice, it goes a long way, especially if you've got that business idea and you want to do something. It does go a long way having that expertise. One of the things I want to ask you is, obviously you've got now 2 young kids and you mentioned about the cons of entrepreneurship. How do you balance that? And what would your advice be to listeners that are in a similar position to you?
I'd say, so I run my private life like my business. It's the only way for me. It's exhausting. I've got 2 boys, one that's only 6 months. The 5-year-old cannonballs on the sofa and elbows me in places that really hurt. And trying to deal with that when in your mind you're thinking, oh, have the blog posts gone out this week? Is social media done? Are the girls happy in the office? It's hard work. It's actually draining. So when I refer to the cons, I think about maternity leave. Yeah. I'd love to have had a year off, being a yummy mummy, going for a coffee, seeing my friends, having play dates. It's not going to happen. And I know it's about the team around you and things like that, but you also, it's my other baby, so I have to give everyone my time in the right way. So I've kind of got non-negotiables when it comes to the kids. So if it's half term this week, for example, I knew that I wasn't going to take the whole week off. We've done a lot lately, so I'm not riddled with mum guilt. But that guilt of not giving the kids enough time and giving the business too much time, it's all about a balance. And I think I'm kind of so notoriously on top of to-do lists and allocating my diary. So it's got to work for that for me. But that's not to say that it always goes to plan. Yeah. It doesn't. And I often feel so guilty as a mum. And people say things like, oh, just drown out the noise and get on with it. That's just such a flippant comment, to drown out the noise of your kids, that you can see you compare yourself. This is why I hate social media so much, is that you compare yourself to other mums or celebrities that seem to have it all. They don't show that they've got 2 nannies in the background helping, put everything together. But yeah, it's a balancing act, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
You talk about balancing act. What sort of skills have you had to learn, time management wise, must be massive for you to be able to balance the family life and run a successful business at the same time. What have you learned around time management?
I think you can't really prepare for the unexpected. So that's a big thing. So I've had to put some things in place recently where I've got more support on kind of consistent daily tasks that I can't put on my team in case somebody's sick, or if somebody's ill, or somebody's on holiday, that kind of thing, or they've got a last minute doctor's appointment. So I've had to kind of be much more savvy with how I delegate my tasks in the team. And there's some things that I would never let myself have a PA before, whereas I've got somebody who helps with my life admin now. Because actually, it's a bit contradictory, isn't it? Me having a concierge company and saying, time is precious, kind of, be present. I want to be present with the kids and I want to be present in the office if somebody needs me. But it's about kind of delegating to the right team and people for those tasks. And I've had to learn a lot on that, I would say.
Yeah, I think you've made some really good points there, and I think it's more about practice what you preach as well. If you're offering that, you've got to be doing it yourself. One of the things when I look at how you conduct yourself, how you've built the business, is you're a really good networker, and I think it comes back to maybe those interpersonal skills that you learn from your time through corporate. For others that maybe struggle with that side of things, what would your advice be?
I used to hate networking. Okay, so when I started in Barclays, they used to say you need to get out and build your own network, build your own profile. I started there at 17. I didn't want to go and meet a 55-year-old guy in a pinstripe suit and talk about banking. He's just going to laugh at this blonde 17-year-old girl walking in, So I hated it, but I had to keep pushing myself. And I remember I used to take Rescue Remedy drops. Do you know those herbal calm drops you get in Boots? Okay. I used to put them on my tongue before I went. I don't know whether they actually did anything or whether psychologically they calmed me down. Because I like people. I like talking to people. But I was young to start doing things like that, to getting out there, early 20s, still quite young. And then to start a business that, I fell into in a way. I didn't just leave the bank and go, oh, this is my idea. It kind of just happened. So I have pushed myself, and I have found that when I don't do regular like networking or meeting people, and I've gone into this COVID stay in the office or behind Teams all the time, that I get more nervous when I speak in front of a group of people again. So I have to keep doing it regularly to not feel, and there's still days now where I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do it. And yeah, it's easier with a glass of wine, isn't it? Yeah, that type of thing. But you can't do that at 11 o'clock in the morning. People judge you.
It's not deemed acceptable.
No, exactly. So yeah, you've got to push yourself. I'm more extroverted than introverted. So for me, it probably is that little bit easier. But I try and do it regularly so it's not so overwhelming. If you do it once a month, you're always going to feel overwhelmed doing it, I think.
Yeah, they talk about like that elastic band effect, isn't it? You stretch yourself and then all of a sudden you shoot back to what you were previously. You've got to keep doing it so it doesn't become a big deal. Like when you're talking about going networking 17, there's probably been other situations in business where you get that imposter syndrome of like, should I be doing this? Am I good enough? How have you dealt with that over the years, and have you experienced it?
All the time. And I compare the business to like other concierge companies who, some of them, like one of our competitors is owned by the nephew of Queen Camilla, that's hard to compete with. So I just stay in my lane. A USP is massive for me, and I just always bring it back to why we're doing it. So whenever we have team meetings and we do some competitor research and, we talk about, what's going well and what's not going well. And I sometimes lie in bed and I've got my iPad writing 100 things so I don't sleep on it.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, think about the why, always about how you're different and why you're doing it. And I think that's the only thing that kind of brings me back to it. I have to write down before I go to bed. Otherwise, I will stay up all night. And I'm already being woken up all night by a 6-month-old baby. I don't need anyone else coming in my head and waking me up. So I write down everything just to try and get it out of my mind and forget about it.
How do you, it's funny, I was having a conversation about this with another entrepreneur as well, is that although you might not physically be in the office working, you're constantly thinking about the business. How have you dealt with that or managed that throughout your sort of entrepreneurial career?
So I'm still learning, to be honest. And I always listen to podcasts and I always think, everyone talks about the success. They don't talk about how hard it is when you're in it. And I'd say I was still doing that this morning, questioning the business, questioning if, is it ever going to be as big as I want it to be? Question if I'm the right person, or if, do I know enough? Are people just laughing at me? And you do have all those thoughts in you all the time. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I think having a supportive network, so like my other half also owns his own business and he's really supportive. And I've been in relationships in the past where they weren't, so they'd actually make me doubt myself even more. You need to have like your people behind you. And I know a lot of women in business as well who are like kick-ass, and they really a couple of these people who are behind me. And if I'm having one of those days, a quick voice note and they're there like, shut up, what are you going on about? And you need that sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you need to look at the things that have gone well. It's so easy to dwell on things that aren't going well, but look at the things that are going well and that have gone well for a long time and work. Some people don't get what we do. So some people sign up to concierge and don't get how to use it. Because we're British, we're not good at outsourcing. So then they might end up leaving us. And actually, sometimes you've got to realise it's not something you've done. Yeah. It might be that people don't understand it. So it's looking at how you can educate people more. But yeah, I'm still figuring it all out, to be honest.
I think when we're talking about that imposter syndrome, and sometimes like negativity can easily creep in when you're running a business where you start doubting what you're doing, if you're the right person, like you said. Have you had moments where you do feel like you're absolutely smashing it, you perform to the best of your ability? And how do you unlock that? What habits do you have to get into that sort of zone?
I think it's when you see it going well, isn't it? It doesn't... I mean, when you see like leads coming in, conversations being converted, clients emailing saying, this is amazing, thank you so much. When you've got days like that, you are thriving, But it's, because it's not every day, it's that emotion, it's up and down, up and down, up and down in a business. And trying to then be up when some things might be pulling you down. I'm always positive though. I always try to look how, one, if things have gone wrong, how we could be better, but two, the things that are really good. And so much of business is dipping your toe in the water for loads of different things. And loads of things, 90% of that won't go right. You have to be prepared to pick yourself up. And I think that just comes with time and going through the motions of it. You can't be prepared for it. That's just like an emotion you have to learn through time, I suppose.
I think it, like, what you're getting at around that, sometimes like in business, I almost feel like it's like fight, flight or freeze. And a lot of people freeze where they don't want to do anything because they don't want to make a mistake and they don't want to fail. And like from speaking with you now, I can tell that you're happy to test things, to try things, but the reason is because you've accepted it's going to happen. And that's quite powerful, really, if you're trying to grow a successful business, is that you're testing things and there's application and effort. One thing I wanted to ask you was around, like, my perception at the moment is that customer service is dying in a way.
Shocking.
It's shocking, especially in the UK. You go out for dinner, it's all self-serve, there's no relationships, there's no interpersonal skills. Why do you think customer service is so important for business owners and businesses to be successful?
People won't stay. People will not stay. I put something on LinkedIn last week where I was absolutely blown away by something really simple when I thought about it, but it just doesn't happen anymore. And I always say, good customer...
Can I ask what that thing was?
Yeah, so I was going down to Tenby and I had a roof box on my car and my other half left the keys on the roof of my car.
Okay.
So we're on the way down to Tenby. We still don't realise they're on the roof until we heard a clunk and my Apple Watch said, your keys have been left behind. So I had to find my whatever they call devices on there. But bizarrely, he bought for my birthday in August because I always lose my keys. That's the most ironic part of this story. So they're on the M4 just after junction 33. If there's ever any traffic and anyone wants to have a mooch for them, they're still there right now. So on that keyring was a handwriting off my dad that I had put into a keyring. So I had a little note that he wrote me, and he passed away 10 years ago. And basically, there was this company online called Inscripture, I think they're called. But I couldn't find my order. I couldn't find the note. So I was like, I didn't really care about the keys. I wanted the keyring back because it was my dad's handwriting on it. So I found this company and I just sent them a message on Facebook. And just from my name on Facebook, they found my order. They sent me the note. They sent me the address, the postcode of the address they'd sent it to. And there was no to in and fro in, like 7 messages later, we got to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
They had it all there and then off one message it took. And you don't get that anymore. Everywhere is like, I've just bought a holiday home in Tenby. Trying to get a utility company to change the ownership over has taken me about 4 hours that I will never get back of my time. And it's just like, there's no common sense approach anymore. I just say, like, my biggest thing with Otium is over communicate. Give every client more than they need and remind them, and they won't ever not know or be wondering if we've done something or what if this or what if that. Like, you always have to think, oh, I sent that off the other day. Did someone come back to us on that? Oh, no, I better chase. Yeah. You just can't trust any company anymore to just do what they're meant to do.
Why do you think that's happening?
I don't know. I think this gets down to, like, younger people and entitlement and all those things about customer service and people being online more. Like, conversation is dead. Yeah. And I just think, even like we talk about people dating, it's all online now. And I understand how it works and how things have changed, but you don't see people randomly talking coffee shops or I just think people are scared to, I don't know. They're scared to kind of communicate in a way. And so many people hide behind email.
Yeah.
And I'm all
slows everything down.
Yeah. You could resolve something in 30 seconds on a phone call that would take 7 emails.
I think it can be so many businesses' competitive advantage if they just think about, how can I better service my customers?
Yeah.
If you do that well, word of mouth will happen, word spreads, you get more leads, you get more customers. But the key is you've got to continue doing that as you grow. And I think a lot of corporates in particular, and that's the challenge, is they've grown to a point where it's hard for it to get competitive.
Yeah.
They don't need to provide good customer service because you can't really go anywhere else.
No.
But that's what I love about what you're doing at Otium is that for the first thing is serve the customer well and everything else will go well.
Yeah.
So it's huge. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was what are some of the important lessons that you've learned from business? So you've been going, is it 7 years now?
7 years now. That's a tough question. I'd say I believe in myself so much more than I think I ever would if I'd stayed in corporate, because you're just told to do what you do so much. And it's all about, if you want that promotion, you've got to blow smoke up that person's arse. It's not always about talent. It's about who you know and if your face fits. Whereas I think the biggest lesson I've learned is to believe in myself. I would say confidence. I mean, be confident, know what you're talking about, be confident about it. Because I still get these situations where I'm in a room and I'm a female in business and there's still 80-90% of my clients are men. So we deal with mainly men and men over 40. So there's still this kind of, I'm not an extreme feminist, but there's still this kind of talk down to the woman scenario that I experience a lot. The girls that work for me experience it a lot as well. So that's a challenge, and that's something that we're still trying to navigate through. But I don't back down. I'm so confident when it comes to what we deliver and what we do and how we want to do it.
Yeah.
So I try not to when I talk about making decisions and get on with it, they're usually well thought out decisions. They just don't take 8 people to give it the yes, if you know what I mean. I think
How did you build that confidence? Can I just ask you that?
I don't know. I'd say, I think when I'm so invested in the business now, and there has been times where I've thought, I'm just going to go and get a job for the civil service because I know it's a lot easier than what I'm doing right now. And I can have maternity leave and I can do compressed hours and I haven't got to check my emails at 8 p.m. I think because I believe that Otium's going to be big. I believe that our clients love us and there's a reason for it, which comes down to service. I'd say who you surround yourself with is massive, that they believe in me too. So I am proving myself to the bigger world, but I'm not proving myself to the people that are already backing me, if you get me. And I do push myself. I found it really hard since having Chester, who's 6 months old. I found it really hard getting back into work than I did with William, who's 5. This time I found it really hard. And I think it's because there's so much out there. There's so much choice to make. You know, you talk about making decisions and stuff. I'm going off on one now. But, like someone would say, you start a business, you need a CRM system.
Yeah.
Well, there's about 10,000 out there. How does that person make the decision that's right for their business without being overwhelmed by that choice? Mm-hmm. So all that kind of thing just creeps into time and you want to focus on business development, but then you've spent 2 days on a CRM system. It's not productive, is it?
Too much information.
Yeah.
You've already got enough information.
Yeah.
It's just acting on what you already know.
Exactly. And this comes back to your network, I think. And I think coaching, obviously what you do is massive. I think having somebody who's dealing with a multitude of businesses and services like we offer, we deal with a multitude of systems, being able to reach out to those people. So you've just got the confidence to go, I've made that decision, I'm moving on with it now. Yeah. I'm not going to be sidelined. It's done. We'll see if it works. We'll give it 6 months and then we'll revisit it if it's not the right thing for us. But yeah, I think I've gone off on one, but it's all these different things, I think, that when you're owning a business that are buzzing around in your head, that you just have to try and navigate your way through to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got an amazing, I suppose, support network around you of other business owners that you can turn to. What's some of the best advice you've ever had from other people?
I think stay in your lane. Just don't try and do everything. That and be consistent. Consistency is huge. The difference so I started 2024 with consistency as my buzzword for this year. This is what I'm focusing on. So our newsletters have been consistent. Our social media has been consistent. our blogging's been consistent, our kind of client retention, like reach out calls, all of that stuff has just been a non-negotiable foundations of how we run the business. And the difference it's made on clients, on the team, on leads coming in has been so different. When you kind of, but it's hard. If you're a one-man band, to do all those things, you might not have the cash flow to have a social media company or a VA or a, how do you do it all? But do all of it a little bit less, I suppose, than try and go, I'm going to do 10 social media posts a month. Do one a week and start there. But you do want to do it all. So that consistency for me, I've seen a massive change in how we operate this year.
I'm glad you say that, because I see it in other businesses that I work with where I like to get consistency in there first, because if we are being consistent and it's still not working, then we know it's something else and that we can make changes elsewhere. But when you're not being consistent and it's just here, there and everywhere and it's sporadic, you've always got in your mind, well, if we were just a little bit more consistent, that might be the silver bullet that we're looking for. So I think like consistency is just absolutely, any business owner that's listening to this that maybe is stuck in a rut or looking for growth, start getting the fundamentals in place, which is key. How did you embed that consistency? So how did you go from 2023 to like, right, okay, no, 1st of Jan, I'm going to start being more consistent. How did you do it?
So we've kind of sat down as a team and we've allocated tasks now. So everybody's got a responsibility. So, there's so many functions of the business. You've got your finance, you've got your marketing, you've got sales, you've got client, operations, client retention, and everybody owns an area. So that's kind of been the key for me. You might not have everyone in your business to own an area. In that case, I like project management tools. So I use ClickUp. I'm a big fan of ClickUp. And I know what I've got to do every week. I know what is my responsibility there. So if I was a one-man band, for example, I'd say, right, I'm going to do one blog a month, two social media posts about educating my audience on what we do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one LinkedIn post, or I'm going to do this on operations. And I'd do it that way and start there. With us, we have we have tasks, and I see that they're completed. And if they're not completed, we'll chat about why, and we'll look at statistics as well. And we'll look at, if it's an operation, if it's to do with the operations of the business and something isn't working, well, we'll brainstorm it and think, well, how can this be better? Let's just make a couple of changes.
Yeah.
But it's about getting the foundations there and getting them functioning regularly. I think, like what you said, is absolutely to do with that. And last year, I felt that we got quite chaotic. We weren't staying in our lane. We were trying to hit everyone for everything. And right now, our biggest focus is one of our services. And that's the theme of 2024, basically. Everything else is still running smoothly, but we're putting a lot of more investment into individual things rather than trying to do a bit of everything.
Okay, that's huge, yeah. Do one thing extremely well instead of doing a number of things quite poorly.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, because I know you've got good experience in this now, you started the business, it's grown, you've built a team. I feel like the most important thing with the team is you might have the entrepreneur and the owner that's performing well, but if the rest of the team aren't, then it's a complete waste of time. What do you do to instill good leadership and to get the team working towards a common goal well?
So we do daily huddles every day. So we do a daily huddle at 9 a.m. every day. And if we're kind of not going to be around, so say I was out at a meeting, I'd still update. We use a metronomic software to say about my news and things like that. So there's two main questions. Is your good news.
Okay, nice.
It can be not business related. I actually prefer it when it's not, because it kind of brings this soft start to the day in and people are thinking about positive things rather than anything that's gone wrong.
Yeah.
So, and then what their main focus is for that day is, because we generally kind of know a lot of the stuff that we're doing. Sometimes we get thrown to the side as you're doing business, but we do two things. So like I'd say, today I'm off to Cardiff to do a podcast with Andrew. One of the girls said the other day, I've broke my toe, but it doesn't hurt. So, we just have the most random things that come out. But it starts a conversation. And the daily huddles, we always keep less than 15 minutes, so they don't eat into our day. And we're not kind of talking about what somebody ate last night for dinner, at 10 o'clock when there's work to be done. But it gives everyone that mindset of let's be positive for the day. It just makes it a little bit softer. And then during that call, if anyone's stuck on anything, they'll say, and then I'll pick it up with them directly afterwards. So it works quite well in that way. And I think it'll work well as the teams grow as well, as to where, people report in where they are and someone else to manage those kind of areas that people are stuck on.
It strikes me when you talk about your staff and the importance of that, of starting the days on the positives, the softer side of things, is that work needs to be a place where you come and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing worse when you see a small business owner that's micromanaging people, creating an environment. Yeah, they obviously want the business to be successful, but what you also have to appreciate is that the staff aren't going to care as much as you. Mm-hmm. And the more pressure you put on them to do that, the worse it's going to be. You're going to have staff turnover, it's going to be a terrible culture, productivity is going to go through the floor. So I love that you have that sort of softer side of things to it. One of the things I feel like you do quite well is you think quite strategically about the business. So I feel like you're good at taking yourself out a little bit. And if something's not working, something needs to change. What does your strategy and process look like for working on the business?
I'm getting better at it. I wouldn't say I'm there yet, but I'm so much more disciplined with it than I was. So I think back when we used to work together in the NatWest Accelerator, it'd probably be the only time I'd work on the business is when I came in and had a coaching session with you. Whereas now, I would say that I would spend at least a day a week working on the business. Brilliant. So I'd say I take myself off, I look at what's being done. So it might be things like I'm looking at the quality of the work that's going out or how we're sending things to clients. It might be that I'm working on business development and looking at ad campaigns and working on things like that. But I know when you talk about just a minute ago, you mentioned about the team and everything like that. I think having that A team is essential, but also so hard to find. And one thing that I do with the guys in the team is talk about what they want to do and what they enjoy the most. So one of them might say, I love just the tasks and the dealing with daily concierge tasks in and out. I'm really task orientated. Another person will say, I love team management. Great, because I can't stand it. That's perfect for me. That works really well. So it's playing to what people enjoy is massive. And I think that's been part of me working on the business is before I probably wouldn't have asked those questions. And it would be like, well, that attitude of these people work for me. So they'll go in the roles that fits that job description. But I think times come on from, we all do the job descriptions. But actually, when you get people in the business and realise what their strengths are, you need to play to those strengths. Because actually, you could have somebody that is working on, they're working on the business admin side of the business, but they actually would be much better on dealing with lifestyle concierge services. And it's moving people. Instead of thinking they're not right fit for the team, they need to go, there might just be little tweaks within that team you need to make to actually play more to their advantage and their strengths. And I'm learning a lot more about people and how to be a better leader, because that's probably been a challenge for me, because I've always been in corporate and led by and micromanaged. I have been, so to try to not have those skills is quite difficult. So I like to think I don't micromanage, but I probably sometimes do to a degree. So I'm trying to be better at that. I've joined a lot of different networks. Like I've recently joined the IOD, and I'm trying to kind of surround myself with more kind of entrepreneurs, because since having a baby, I've stopped doing all of that. And I've noticed the impact on maybe I've overshared stuff with the team that's been on my days of strategically working on the business that might get their hopes up that we're going in a certain direction. And then the next day I might think, I've slept on this a bit longer. So I've had to do a bit of that lately, where I've had to maybe bring myself in a little bit. But I feel like when you work on the business, what does that mean, Because we've sat there and we've kind of brainstormed and we've had the flip charts out and, you've always played devil's advocate with me, which is what you want from a coach, isn't it? You want somebody to challenge you, not just to go, oh yeah, this is great, this is great. But then there's a challenge in yourself at the same time, and asking yourself those questions on the days that you work on the business. So
I think like whenever I think about working on the business, I think it's just one word comes to mind for me is intention. Mm-hmm. So what are we trying to do here? Because when I have people that I meet that I go into for like a first coaching session with people, they've just been ticking over.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's no KPIs, there's no goals, there's no questioning the strategy. They haven't analysed things, they don't look at the data, and it's like, this is just ticking along, and it's just a matter of time before something goes wrong. So when I think about like working on the business, it's take a step back, intention. What are we trying to do? And that's what you're doing with your day a week, is like giving yourself that space to think about it. And I love what you say around, and I think for any of the listeners listening to this is, if you're in a rut and you're stuck and you're looking for answers, go and surround yourself with other business owners, because those conversations will get your creativity going and will give you a lot of time, will give you the answers you're looking for.
And they also recommend people as well. When you speak to them, I know somebody who will be able to help with that. And it's amazing when you do start to tap into people, kind of what their experience is. So, and some people aren't as open and receptive. You've got people who are really successful who might not respond. I've always said I'll never be that person, though. I've always said that if I get to the point that I've kind of reached all my goals in business, I'd never kind of close my door on someone who wants help. Yeah, because
you listen to some people out there and they're like, you've got to be so protective over your time. I never forget it. There was an entrepreneur that I knew quite well, and really helped this entrepreneur. The business kicked on, and I remember asking just for him to speak to a client of mine for 5 minutes, and he said, I've got 2 minutes and it's at this time. And I just thought, I can get it from his point of view. He's a busy guy, his business is going from strength to strength and he wants it to kick on. But at what point do you think, well, hang on, don't forget where you came from and the people that helped you along the way too. So not just take all the time.
Yeah.
Which is
and you don't have to do it, you can you could do it in so many different ways. You don't need to be that direct, and you might not respond to somebody for a couple of weeks, but respond to them, respond to them and say, look, bit busy at the moment, I'll do this in a few months, or come here, I'm going to be in the coffee shop at this time, I'll have a quick 20 minutes, because actually you don't know what that person knows. Everyone starts somewhere, and we work with a lot of high net worth individuals in the business, and their stories amaze me. But there is a big difference in self-made and someone who's inherited.
What do you see? That's an interesting point.
I'd say I see someone who's self-made. They're much more aware of cost. So when we find them a hospitality package, for example, at Cheltenham races, they're very aware of what that should look like before they've asked. Whereas you kind of get some people who will just pay anything for anything because they want to be there and it doesn't matter when. Less so more people like that. But I think they're much more aware of cost and they are more approachable, less kind of done. They're more personable. So you have more of a conversation and get to know them a bit. And we speak to a lot of our clients via WhatsApp because it's easier for them, and goes back to the customer service side of it. People who are investing in it because they're time poor don't want to be going online and filling out forms. Yeah, we have that option for the ones that do, but they don't want to. So I think with them, you kind of there's a bit more banter. There's a bit more kind of interest in you as a person or whoever they're speaking to as a person. And it's less like you serve me.
Transactional.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting point. Looking ahead then, Otium Concierge, what does the future look like for Otium Concierge and what does success look like for you?
So the future for me is really building our on-demand service. So we've got a massive ad campaign at the moment that's going to run for 3 months because I want to bring concierge down to a lower level of wealth, I suppose. Concierge is perceived as you have to be a VIP, you have to be famous, you have to be a really successful entrepreneur. But actually, these people starting a business or a mum with 2 kids is time poor. And to be able to access a service on a pay-as-you-go basis when life is a bit overwhelming is kind of like gold dust to people that don't know about that service. So for me, it's building that. My target is to try and get to 10,000 sign-ups on Concierge. So we've got a set number. We're working at it. And I don't know thereafter. I've always said I want to retire at 40, but I'm now 35. And I've been saying that since I was about 25. So but I enjoy work. It's not that I just want to build it and get rid of it. It's the challenge is the kids and the guilt. So, but I don't think I'd ever not be able to work. So the target is to really build the on-demand offering. I think we've got so many amazing sign-ups and so many different, we've got ultra high net worth people on it, people who are on, in a really average corporate job that use it when life gets a bit busy, and we've got, single mums on it. So it really shows that it is accessible to anyone, but it's hard marketing a business.
You don't strike me as the type of person that would want to retire at 40. I know the idea of it looks good. You're lying on a beach somewhere.
A few spa days.
A few spa days, you're relaxing. But I know there would be that itch to be like, I need something to focus on, and the entrepreneurial side of you would come out. That brings an end to the conversation today, Katie. I want to thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I think the things that stand out for me, I love your values in business. I think I love the quality of what you do, and I love the energy that you bring. I think the thing that I got from today is that people buy from people, and I think you completely embody that. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we'll do it again in the future.
Thanks.